Maqasidic Tafsir.
Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Pursuing the higher aim, learning the meaning of every page. Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end?
Another addition to your Islamic education, Maqasidic Tafsir, Healing and Governance, the Transformative Path of Sabah as-Tiwal, written by Dr. Karim Abuzaid. Join Ustada Laila Nasheeba every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m., streaming all major platforms. Channel soon to follow.
That is listed here. And this is a copy of the book. And make sure for those of you who have not yet purchased the book that you go to Amazon and buy the book. And again, this is chapter 3.1.4, we're going to discuss how to have faith amidst the trials of life. And I want everybody to understand that we were created to be tested, and we were put on this earth to prove to Allah that we believe in Him. This earth was meant to be the testing ground for us. We were not created to live in paradise. We were created to be tested here on earth and to earn the rights to live in paradise. Okay? How we handle ourselves on this planet determines what our fate will be in the hereafter. If we find the truth of our purpose here and submit to the decree of Allah, that will determine our fate in the hereafter. Okay? So this was no mistake. Our being here is no mistake. Our belief in Allah propels us on the journey here. And there will be hardships along that journey. But Allah did not put us here and leave us without a means to an end. He's left His book here for us, the book of guidance, which is the Quran. He's left an example for us, the example of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is the life coach for all mankind and jinn. He teaches us how to handle ourselves in all situations, good and bad. How to handle ourselves in all trials, good and bad. So let's take a look and see what Allah reminds us of in these last verses of Surah Baqarah. Okay? So, Surah Baqarah, this chapter stands as a deep exposition which integrates many Islamic teachings to us. And these teachings have compelling narratives that resonate with the believer's spirit. These narratives are woven with Allah's wisdom, and they underscore the importance of having strong faith and obedience to Allah's commands, even in the face of daunting challenges. embedded within the intricate tapestry of this chapter of the Quran. We have 5 distinct stories surrounding that verse of the Quran known as the verse of the throne. The verse of the throne. And these stories offer solace and assurance to those of us who believe in Allah. These stories guide us through the complexities of adherence to Allah's laws, His directives, His commands. For example, if we look at verse 243 through verse 245 of chapter Baqarah, we find a lesson of Allah's mercy and the fleeting nature of life, because this narrative unfolds around a group of Israelites who are running away from death only to be enveloped by it through Allah's command. Remarkably, Allah resurrects them, showing His mercy and the transient nature of earthly existence. This event serves as a testament to the supremacy of Allah's will. No one can escape the decree of Allah. If Allah decrees for something to happen, it's going to happen. You can't change it, you can't stop it, and you cannot escape it. And this event urges the believers to embrace the inevitability of death and recognize the temporary nature of this world. Nothing lasts forever. There is no immortality, not in this life. And we learn that from these 2 verses of this amazing chapter of the Quran. And these are essential lessons when making efforts to establish Islamic leadership here in this world, which requires the sacrifice of money and the risk of life, which the early Muslims pledged when they gave their allegiance to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is something that we need to be reminded of today in 2025. Nothing lasts forever. Not you, not me, not nothing here. So we need to read those verses 243 through 245. Read about the group of Israelites who thought that they could escape death, only to find themselves enveloped by it through Allah's command. And also in these last verses of this amazing chapter of the Quran, we come upon verses 246 through 251. These are the verses that speak about Talut and Jalut. The account of Talut and Jalut, they underline the critical need for obedience to Allah's guidance and the futility of doubting the wisdom of Allah. This is something that, again, we can relate to today as Muslims. A lot of us question Allah's wisdom. How many of you are right now questioning why Allah has sent war? You're questioning the wisdom behind why Allah has sent war, why Allah has done what Allah is doing. Well, think about these verses here, the account of Talut and Jalut. These verses exemplifies the miraculous victory of faith over adversities. They highlight that with Allah's support, numerical inferiority can be overcome by belief in Allah's assistance. Ponder that, Muslims of today. Subhanallah. Instead of picking up flags, instead of protesting Allah's decree, read those verses about Talut and Jalut. Subhanallah. And then we come upon the longest verse of the Quran, Ayatul Kursi, verse 255. Here, this verse describes Allah's sovereignty with its deep encapsulation of Allah's omnipotence. It offers protection and serves as a reminder to the believers of the infinite might and perpetual vigilance of our Creator. It asserts the foundations of monotheism, reinforcing the believer's trust in Allah and His encompassing power. And then it's followed by verse 258, which details the clash of faith and tyranny that emerged between Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Nimrod. This narrative describes Prophet Ibrahim's unwavering conviction in the face of Nimrod's arrogance, which many of ourselves find ourselves dealing with opposing forces today. This narrative illustrates the folly of disputing Allah's power. It reaffirms that Allah is the sole and only giver of life and death. And it steers the believers towards faith and belief in His supreme authority. As Ibn al-Qayyim stated in the debate, he said that the debate between Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam and Nimrod, as well as other polytheists, alludes to astronomy. It demonstrates that all polytheism originates from the worship of heavenly bodies and graves. And we still have people today who worship the stars and who worship the graves. Subhanallah. And then we move on to verse 259 of this chapter, which speaks about the impermanence of life and Allah's omnipotence. A man's astonishment at how Allah is able to resurrect a desolate town, and how it becomes a powerful lesson in Allah's capability and the transient nature of worldly life. This story may refer to Prophet Israel, who witnessed the restoration of a town after Nimrod destroyed it. And this story serves as a lesson for believers to recognize and submit to the power of Allah, who alone can bring the dead to life, a power that even the mightiest of human rulers can never equal. And then we come to verse 260 of chapter Baqarah, of Prophet Abraham alayhi salam and the bird, which serves as an affirmation of resurrection. In this enlightening episode, Prophet Abraham alayhi salam, he wanted a deeper understanding, which led to a miraculous demonstration of how Allah can resurrect the dead, how Allah allowed 4 dismembered birds' bodies to become reassembled and animated right in front of the eyes of this beloved prophet, alayhi salam. And finally, the concluding verses of Surah Baqarah, verses 283 through 286, they illustrate the essence of the entire chapter. They urge the believers to embody the faith and obedience that was exemplified by Prophet Abraham, alayhi salam, and his lineage. This call to action is not just about acknowledging Allah and his angels and his books and his messengers, but it's about wholeheartedly embracing and acting upon Allah's commandments. For these verses, the believers are cautioned against imitating the attitude of the people who came before us and their approach to Allah's guidance. This cautionary message is vividly illustrated through an episode where the prophet's companions confronted a challenging decree with initial apprehension, but they were reminded of the virtue in declaring simply, "We hear and we obey." Something that we Muslims today need to get in the habit of declaring. This historical moment underscores this chapter's overarching message, which is attesting to Allah's supremacy and the importance of diligently adhering to his edicts, especially when facing trials or uncertainties. It accentuates the pillars of faith as well as the ever-present reality of accountability before Allah that we all will witness on the day of judgment. So again, guys, Surah Baqarah is one of the most amazing chapters of the Quran, because it's a chapter that helps to not only build, but also reinforce your belief in Allah. It contains stories of what happened to the people that came before us. It contains reminders of what happened to those who came before us. It also contains edicts from Allah, commands from Allah that we need to implement into our lives, subhanAllah. And in these narrating episodes, Surah Baqarah doesn't just recount historical events, but it offers deep lessons in finding direction and purpose through the actualization of faith and obedience. And it prompts those of us who truly believe in Allah to trust in his wisdom, especially when charting life's challenges and uncertainties. Remember, this world was not meant to be a paradise for the believer. This world was meant to be simply what it is, the testing ground for the believer. And through this chapter, stories, laws, and injunctions, it serves as a guiding light, encouraging the believers to navigate the complexities of life with faith, with courage, with resilience, and unwavering devotion to Allah's will. This chapter calls upon the believers to bear witness and to commit and flourish within Allah's decree. This chapter sets the stage for the next chapter of the Quran to act as a shield against doubts, a shield against your desires, to ensure adherence to what you claim to believe in. And it paves the way for a life marked by purpose, devotion, and seamlessly transitioning to embrace what comes next.